I love the review for this book, and I'm so excited to share it with you because it opens the door to a topic that I love to rant about in a completely different medium that I haven't talked about on the channel before. So let's get into it. I read The 90s by Chuck Klosterman in 2025. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads, and then I wrote this about it. I'm pretty sure Chuck Klosterman was sent here to save me from myself. This was an awesome read for an overly proud Gen Xer with deep feelings about everything that happened in the 90s. Klosterman approaches it with his signature journalistic integrity that comes through in both positive fanboy and balanced self-deprecating ways. And the way he delivers them here is far less first person than his other collections I've read. That being said, fans of his work will detect subtle hints of his opinions through his balanced reporting. It's all fun and it's all good, and I never tire of the way he strings together pop culture events to draw conclusions and analysis. I'm eternally curious about his ideas and research. The reason I say he is sent here to save me from myself is that so much of what he addresses in this book feels validating and reassuring regarding the confusing topics people near my age grew up with. I love that he says the concept of the Mandela Effect could only have been created by Gen Xers because we grew up in a world where much was unverifiable and transitioned into a world where literally everything can be verified. I love that he points out some of the ridiculousness of the film Titanic, not fully matching my frustrations with it, but confirming its simplicity and shallowness to some degree. I love that he examines how the concept of the Y2K bug was both overhyped and possibly averted because of the level of hype it received. So much of our experiences are confusing in retrospect. We have thoughts and beliefs based on our limited understanding of those experiences. This book is an extremely fun connect the dots between the decade as it was experienced and a mostly objective and balanced resource about many of the interesting events and occurrences along the way. The 90s is a fantastic book. When it talks about the Mandela Effect, I think it's really interesting, and there's many things that have shown up in my life that come up as the Mandela Effect. The 90s talks about the Mandela Effect as a construct of the minds of Gen Xers because we grew up in a world where we created memories with unverifiable truths, and now we show up in the internet world where we can check all of our resources. I've seen so many continue to pop up. In Portland, in grocery stores, there's a corn chip that was called for the longest time a Juanita's, and it was kind of like everyone's favorite corn chip for a long time. And at one point recently, like in the last year, all of the bags changed their name to Juan Antonio's. And it was the kind of thing where it wasn't really announced, it wasn't a big deal, but then everybody went rushing to the internet, and you can find on the internet that they needed to change it because there was already a Juanita's somewhere else where they were selling it. But they did it very quietly. And those are the kinds of real life things that happen that lead us to ideas about the Mandela Effect when something that we've had for so long just shifts in our perspective. It's one of those completely verifiable things, but there's so many examples of the Mandela Effect on the internet where it might be from a time bygone that we might not be able to verify, and that sits right in the mysterious brains of Gen Xers. I talk about Titanic here, and I'm so glad that he talked about the oversimplistic nature of the movie. I am a Titanic hater. Leo in the movie, Jack, is basically a stalker. He's consistently told not to go with Rose. She tells him, stay away from me, and yet he persists. He continually stalked her and continually went to places where he was not supposed to be. And yet we identify him as doing it in the name of true love, which is a terrible message to send to people about the way that love should happen. Drugs and alcohol are used as rebellion, are used as messages of freedom in Titanic, and I really have a problem with that. All those things are wonderful if you enjoy them in moderation, but it's a terrible message to say about true love, which I think is unfortunate. So I struggle with the movie Titanic, and I was happy to have that reflected in the 90s by Chuck Klosterman. Last thing is this Y2K bug. I think I brought up this piece when we talked about Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. We talked about in COVID how whatever you believed ended up being true for you, that your belief was validated regardless of how you believed about COVID. Y2K kind of feels like that too. Nothing really happened when stuff switched from 1999 to 2000. And the people who really believed in Y2K being a problem will argue that it's because we spent so much, we invested so much time, energy, money, effort into making sure that we were going to be fine when the computer switched over from 99 to 2000. And they would be right if they believed it. And the interesting thing is, if you believed it was a hoax, if you believed that the Y2K bug was just made up to make a bunch of people money, you ended up being right too. For you, it's that validation of your belief. Your reality is really what you make it. This book is talking about what has happened in our life in a very fun way. If you like Klosterman, you're gonna love this book. And if you have opinions about these things or things in the 90s, you're also gonna love this book. I read The 90s by Chuck Klosterman in 2025. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads.